Alrighty, folks, you know I got to give a huge shout out to all of my chairman members. It's been, 5, 6 days in a row? Tell you, chairman members cashed in on 5 more premium selections on my website yesterday. And the only way you could access to all of those winners is to join my full access, all-inclusive chairman package. And I'll explain a little bit more about that in just a moment. But before we go ahead and move on, just want to take a quick time out and welcome you to my Major League Baseball free pick video here today for Monday, April 15th, 2024. Hey, folks, don't forget to pay those taxes. Once again, happy Monday to you. My name is Brock Page. Hopefully you had a great weekend. Let's go ahead and get a new week started off good. Once again, my name is Brock Page. I've been dishing out free sports picks right here on YouTube since 2016. And if you want to see which one of the games on the slate here today that I actually like the best, you're going to want to sign up for my full access, all-inclusive chairman package. Chairman members get access to every single premium selection of mine, every single package, every single day for the next 30 days. And as an added bonus, you also get access to my chairman podcast absolutely free. It's included with your purchase. And if you don't need access to every single premium selection of mine, but maybe you could use like one a day, you may want to think about joining my $1.99 daily best play. It gives you one premium selection of mine every single day for the next 30 days. The math works out to be just 6 cents a day. I'm 5-1 on my last 6 daily best plays, 3-0 on my last 3 extra daily picks, 3-0 on my last 3 crowd pleaser teasers. And finally, folks, I'm 6-0 on my last 6 board member tier package picks. And the good news is all of those memberships are included with your purchase of the chairman package. We got plays going off in all of those memberships. Once again, the site is patreon.com/BrockPage. And with that, folks, we're going to dive into some free content here. Got ourselves a nice early game here today. I believe it's Jackie Robinson Day. I think everybody in the league wears 42 here today. So hopefully Fanatics didn't bungle those jerseys. But anyway, our first game, Guardians, Red Sox, 11:10 a.m. Eastern first pitch. Boston's minus $130, totals 9.5. Cutter Crawford for the Red Sox. Xavier Curry making his season debut for Cleveland. And I'll tell you, this Cleveland pitching staff, they've been very tough to hit against to start the year, especially on the road. They're allowing just 2.3 runs a game in their travels. And a lot of that is thanks to a bunch of strikeouts on the bump. This Cleveland pitching staff averages nearly 11 strikeouts a game away from Cleveland. But it ain't just pitching for the Guardians. These guys have little problems producing runs. Cleveland's in the top 5 in runs per game on the road. And they're led by Steven Kwan, who's hitting .368 at the plate. Jose Ramirez, he has a dozen RBI at the dish as well. And even though they are going up against a very impressive Cutter Crawford for the Bo Sox, Boston lost 4 of 6 at Fenway this season, and they struggled getting base runners. Boston is averaging under 7 hits a game in their own stadium. Now, injury-wise, Rafi Devers is questionable with a shoulder injury. Keep an eye on him. When it comes to the total in this one, the Bo Sox went 4-2 to the under in those home games. Give me Cleveland plus $110, under 9.5. All right, next game, Twins, Orioles, 6:35 East. Baltimore's minus $145, totals 9. Cole Irvin for Baltimore, Louis Varland for Minnesota. Now, Varland's 0-2, and he's allowed 3 home runs already on this season. Louis also given up 9 runs on 13 hits, and he's walked a handful of batters as well. And I'll tell you what, even if he does throw well here today, this Twins lineup has been pretty putrid. They're averaging fewer hits a game than any other roster in the AL Central. And that's certainly bad news for them because these Baltimore pitchers, they've been racking up the strikeouts. They're actually in the top 10 in the league in punch-outs. They're actually walking only 2.2 batters per 9. But even if Cole Irvin continues to struggle on the hill, These Baltimore Sluggers have, been producing a bunch of runs in Camden Yards. Anthony Santander, he's the club leader in RBI. Colton Krauser, he has a handful of homers with an OPS in the 1400s. Now, injury-wise, Correa, Kepler, and Lewis are on the IL for Minnesota. When it comes to the total, the Twins have gone 64% to the over for the entire season. Meanwhile, Baltimore is 7-2 to the over on their own field. Give me the O's minus 145, over 9. Next game, Rockies, Phillies, 6:40 p.m. East. Philadelphia is minus 260, totals 8.5. Aaron Nola for the Titans, Cal Quantrill for Colorado. And even though Quantrill's struggled, the Rockies are a top 10 hit-producing team at the plate. Ryan McMahon's hitting .373 with double-digit RBI. Meanwhile, Zeke Tovar is batting .317 with an OPS in the 900s. And they're facing Aaron Nola here today, who's susceptible to giving up the long ball. He's allowed 4 home runs in 16 innings of work this year with 8 walks. Meanwhile, at the plate, this Phil's lineup, they're a bottom 10 run-producing team. Now, total-wise, the Phils have gone 60% to the over at Citizens Bank Park this season. Meanwhile, Colorado saw 6 out of their last 10 road games get over the total themselves. Give me the Rockies plus 1.5, over 8.5 runs. Next game, Giants, Marlins, 6:40 p.m. East. San Francisco's minus $120, totals 8 runs. Kyle Harrison for San Francisco, A.J. Puck for Miami. Now, Puck's 0-3 to start the year, and he's definitely struggled finding his command. He's walked 14 batters in just 10-plus innings, and he currently has a whip in the mid-2s. Now, at the dish, the 3-13 Marlins are certainly having problems producing runs. They're currently in the bottom 5 in scoring, and they're facing a Giants team who does produce runs on the road themselves. They're in the top 10 in runs per contest when they bat first. Lamont Wade, he's hitting .375 with an OPS in the 1000s. Meanwhile, Michael Conforto's hit a handful of homers, and he's also driven in 13. Now, total-wise, the Giants are 9-1 to the over in their road games. Meanwhile, the Marlins saw overs in 80% of their home games this season as well. Give me the Giants minus $120, over 8. Next game, Rangers, Tigers, 6:40 Eastern start time. Texas is minus $120, totals 9. Michael Lorenzen for the Rangers, Reese Olson for Detroit. And even though Olson's had a rough start to the season, he's certainly capable of pitching well. He had a 1.11 whip in the 2023 season. And this Detroit pitching staff, they've looked good in a handful of games this year. They're allowing under 7 hits a game on the hill. And we could see more of the same going up against a struggling Rangers team. Texas lost 6 out of their last 8. And their pitchers are struggling away from Arlington. They're allowing over 5.1 runs a game in their travels. Now, injury-wise, Nate Lowe is out for Texas. Ibanez inactive for Detroit. When it comes to the total, Detroit's 4-3 to the under at Comerica Park. They're also 60% to the under for the entire season. Give me the Tigers plus $1, under 9. Next game, Angels-Rays, 6:50 Eastern first pitch. Tampa Bay's minus $160, totals 8 runs. Zach Eflin for Tampa, Patrick Sandoval for the Angels. And I got to imagine Patty will throw well here today. These Angels pitchers collectively, they've looked fairly decent on the road this year. They're allowing under 7.4 hits a game in their travels. When it comes to cashing in on the run line, the Angels are 6-3 against the number away from home this year. And they're taking on a Rays team who covered the run line in just 40% of their home games. And I'll tell you what, when these guys are at the Trop, well, they certainly don't score a whole bunch. They're a bottom 5 run-producing team in the American League at home. And it looks like they're going to need a couple of runs here today because starting pitcher Zach Eflin's given up a bunch of runs early in the year already. The righty's allowed 4 home runs already, and he's got an ERA in the 6s. Now, injury-wise, Brandon Lau, Josh Lowe, and Taylor Walls, they are still out for the Rays. And when it comes to the total in this one, Tampa Bay's gone 60% to the over in St. Petersburg. Give me the Angels plus 1.5, over 8.5. Next game, Yankees, Blue Jays, 7:07 Eastern start time. Toronto's minus $1.20, totals 8.5. Chris Bassett for Toronto, Luis Hill for New York. Now, Hill struck out 14 batters in just 9 innings of work. He officially has an ERA of 3 on the nose with a 1.11 whip. Meanwhile, as a team, the Bombers have been outstanding on the road this year. They're 8-2 in their travels, and they're actually having little problems getting on base. As a matter of fact, the Yankees are averaging over 5.3 walks a game in the box. Juan Soto has been walked 15 times, and he leads the roster in RBI. Meanwhile, Anthony Volpe's hitting .382 with an OPS in the thousands. Now, total-wise, the Yankees are 7-3 to the under on the road this year. They're also 69% to the under for the entire season. Meanwhile, Toronto saw 5 out of their last 6 at home stay under the total themselves. Give me the Yankees plus $1, under 8.5. Next game, Pirates, Mets, 7:10 Eastern start time. The Mets are minus $1.30, totals 8.5. Adrian Hauser for New York, Martin Perez for Pittsburgh. And Perez has allowed just 4 earned runs through 19 innings of work this year. He's currently got a 1.89 ERA through 3 starts. And these Pirate hitters, they've had little problems getting on the base paths. They're a top 3 hit-producing team on the road in the National League. And they're going up against Adrian Hauser, who has an ERA in the 5s along with a 1.60 whip. And out of 9 games in Flushing, Queens, the Mets have taken the loss in all of those home games except for 3. Now, total-wise, Pittsburgh's gone 7-4 to the over in their road games this year. That's good for 64% in that particular category. Give the Pirates plus $1.10, over 8.5. Next game, Royals, White Sox, 7:40 Eastern start time. KC's minus 175, totals 9. Seth Lugo for Kansas City, Nick Nastrini possible for Chicago. And even though the 24-year-old Nastrini looked good in spring ball, he's probably going to get little to no run support here today. The 2-13 White Sox are dead last in run production, dead last in walks. And they unfortunately have to face Seth Lugo, who's allowed only 3 earned runs through 18-plus innings. Lugo's officially 2-0 on the season with an ERA of 1.45. And even if Lugo struggles here today, he is backed by a lineup of hitters who continue to produce runs. Kansas City's a top 5 run-producing lineup in the American League. Bobby Witt Jr. is hitting .333 with an OPS in the thousands. And Salvi Perez, he's hitting .339 and leads the roster in runs batted in. Now, injury-wise, Stassi, Moncada, Jimenez, and Robert, they're all still out for Chicago. When it comes to the total, the White Sox saw 5 out of their last 8 home games stay under the number. They're also 60% to the under for the entire season. Meanwhile, KC's 10-6 of the under for the entire year themselves. Give me the Royals minus $1.75, under 9. Next game, Padres, Brewers, 7:40 Eastern first pitch. San Diego's minus $1.25, totals 8.5. Joe Musgrove for San Diego, Joe Ross for Milwaukee. And after a couple of starts, Milwaukee's Joe Ross has an ERA in the 1s with double-digit strikeouts. Meanwhile, at the plate, the Brewers have been smoking the baseball. They're averaging nearly 7 runs a game, and they're led by Christian Yelich, who's hitting .333 at the plate. Now, Yelich currently leads the roster in homers and OPS. Meanwhile, William Contreras bats .375 with a team-best 15 RBI. And I'll tell you, we could see more of the same here today as the Brewers take on Joe Musgrove. The Padres starting pitcher has an ERA in the high 6s, and he lost a couple of games already. Now, these Padres pitchers, they've had a rough start to the season. They're allowing more runs a game than most clubs in the National League. When it comes to the total, the Pods are 4-3 to the under in their road games. Give me the Brewers plus 105, under 8.5. All right, next game, Braves, Astros, 8:10 Eastern start time. Atlanta's minus $1.15, totals 9.5. Darius Vines for the Braves, Spencer Arrighetti for Houston. And I'll tell you, Spencer had a rough go of things in his last outing. He allowed 7 runs through 3 innings, and he walked 3 batters as well. And that's kind of been the big issue with Houston early in the year here. It's been their pitching. The Astros are allowing over 5.4 runs a game right now at Minute Maid Park, and they're facing arguably the most powerful lineup in baseball. The Braves lead the National League in hits per game. Of course, Marcell Ozuna, my goodness, he's hitting .373, and he leads the majors in homers and RBI. Meanwhile, Ozzy Albies, he's hitting .317 with 13 runs scored. Now, the Braves are 6-2 to the over as the road team. They're also 11-3 to the over for the entire year. Give me Atlanta minus $1.15, over 9.5. All right, next game, Cubs, D-backs, 9:40 p.m. East. Arizona's minus 145, totals 8.5. Merrill Kelly for Arizona, Ben Brown for Chicago. And even though Brown's allowed his fair share of runs, it's this Cubbies lineup who can definitely score with the best of them. They're a top 3 run-producing team in the National League. Michael Busch is hitting .327 with an OPS in the thousands. Meanwhile, Seiya Suzuki hits .305 and leads the team in runs batted in. And they're taking on an Arizona team who did take the loss in 6 out of their last 10. And even though Merrill Kelly's looked solid, I think the D-backs could be in some trouble here if they have to go to the bullpen. Arizona's in the bottom 5 in hits allowed per game. Can be Chicago plus 1.5, over 8.5. All right, next game, Cardinals, Athletics, 9:40 Eastern start time. St. Louis is minus $1.75, totals 8. Sonny Gray for the Cards, Ross Stripling for Oakland. And even though Stripling's off to a tough start, the A's did get the W in 6 out of their last 8 ball games. And I don't know how. They found ways to win. And I'll tell you, they're facing a St. Louis team who's actually winning just 40% of their road games thus far. And they got a couple of star players who just aren't getting the job done at the dish. Paul Goldschmidt's hitting just .197 with 19 strikeouts. Jordan Walker's just 8 for 45 with 3 runs scored. That is it. St. Louis is 70% to the under in their road games. They're also 11-5 to the under for the entire season. Meanwhile, Oakland went 80% to the under in their last 10 themselves. Give me the A's plus 1.5, under 8. Next game, Reds, Mariners, 9:42 Eastern start time. Seattle's minus $1.50, total 7.5. George Kirby for the M's, Frankie Montas for Cincinnati. And I'll tell you, Montas has looked pretty good to start the season. He's got an ERA in the low 2s and a 1.14 whip. And even if Montas struggles, the Reds have been a top 5 run-producing team. Spencer Steer's hitting .346 with an OPS in the 1100s. Of course, Ellie De La Cruz, he has a handful of home runs. And they're facing George Kirby, who's struggled through 3 starts. He's got an ERA in the 8s with a 1.53 whip. Of course, as a team, the Mariners took the loss in 7 out of their last 10. They're having all kinds of problems at the plate. They're averaging just 6.2 hits a game in T-Mobile Park. The Mariners are 70% to the under in their own building. They're also 11-5 to the under for the entire year. Give me Cincinnati plus $1.25, under 7.5. And with that, folks, we're going to jump into our next and final breakdown for the video. It's going to be in that Nationals-Dodgers game. That'll be a 10:10 Eastern first pitch. The LA Dodgers are minus 360, totals 8.5. Tyler Glasnow for Los Angeles, Mitchell Parker for Washington. And even though Parker looked good in spring training, he's certainly got his work cut out for him against the Dodgers. LA's a top 3 run-producing team at home. Shohei Ohtani is hitting .338 with an OPS in the thousands. Meanwhile, Teoscar Hernandez is the club leader in RBI. I think the Dodgers could potentially put this one over themselves. Give me Los Angeles -1.5 over 8.5 runs. And with that, folks, now it's time for our quick pick recap. I like the Guardians +110 under 9.5. Baltimore -145 over 9. Colorado +1.5 over 8.5 runs. Giants -120 over 8. Tigers +$1 under 9. Angels +1.5 over 8.5 runs. Yankees +$1 under 8.5. Pirates +110 over 8.5 runs. Royals -175 under 9. Milwaukee +105 under 8.5. Braves -115 over 9.5 runs. Cubs +1.5 over 8 and a hook. Oakland +1.5 under 8 runs. Reds +$1.25 under 7.5. And give me the Dodgers -1.5 over 8.5 runs. And with that, folks, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on my premium site. Now, if you do end up getting a membership here today on patreon.com/BrockPage, just a friendly reminder, you're going to get access to that membership every single day for the next 30 days. As an added bonus, you're also going to get access to all of my cheaper memberships absolutely free. They're going to be included with your purchase. That's why I always tell folks that Chairman Package, it's a full access, all-inclusive membership. It gives you access to every single premium selection of mine, every single package, every single day for the next 30 days. And as an added bonus, you also get access to my Chairman podcast absolutely free. It's included with your purchase. But most importantly, folks, got to thank you for joining me right here on the free video. Really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. And with that said, folks, happy Monday to you. Happy tax day to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my premium site at patreon.com/BrockPage.